The book of Genesis is a 3,500-year-old puzzle. There's a lot of complexity in there, something that people do not see. If you follow the religion, you probably don't know that this structure is in there. My name is Dan Paulson. I am a lifelong student of global religions, and I have studied the Bible in the last few years, going after some patterns I see in there, and I finally analyzed what they've got going on. Welcome to the video. Now, I'm going to do my best to fumble my way through this. It is very big, and I don't think anybody else is finding this or realizing that it's there. Upon analysis, though, I can describe and show you what is there. This is not a preaching anything. This is going to be a philosophical understanding and a very methodical mental analysis of the material, knowing that it is very old, that we have to put ourselves in their time, and that we have to think this through, and that we don't have the stories memorized like they did, so that we are disadvantaged. That is why we can't see what we need to see. Now, I will tell you right up front, this is going to be big. It is not an easy thing to see, or we would have seen it. I'm going to describe multiple parts along the way. This is not one simple thing going on. There's layering of things going on in the Bible. It gets to one place. All of it gets to one place. But they're doing something that's a lot different than other places that are doing myth. What I'm going to say right up front is, you should probably have time to sit down and think about this if you're listening to these videos. There's something that you have to kind of process in your mind. I'm going to be providing something different. It all comes from the Bible. I'm not going to be giving anything that we don't know or making any claims. We're going to be using the book of Genesis and counting and looking at and analyzing the book itself to see what's there. And there is some things that are very fixed, that are patterned, that are easy to see, and there are some things that are conceptual that need to be interpreted in the psyche in a mental hierarchy. So again, there's going to be layers, and you have to sit and think through this. It's a self-healing path. And I will tell you that in Genesis, right off the bat, through Genesis, there are two primary templates. One of them is very short, and it's in the beginning. The other one goes all the way through the rest of Genesis. For when Noah and the flood picks up, that starts the second myth. The creation myth up to the time that the flood happens is that creation myth is there, and then the rest of it is resequencing what would be called monomyth, but it's really an inner self-healing path, a look inward at the issues that we don't want to deal with, a self-healing path. Okay, so those are the two primary things. There's a few additions here and there, some things that can be looked at as we go through it in greater detail. The story about the Tower of Babel, that's one chapter that's very short. There are also numbering lineages. So-and-so lived this amount of time and had such and such. Then they lived this much longer and had more boys and girls, and then they lived this amount of years total and then died. That those sequencing patterns right there throughout there, they're creating numbers in those. There's patterns, there's ways we look at the Bible that I realize now that throughout my life I never realized. Only through analysis and getting through this do you see what's going on, and it becomes easier to do once you realize what they're doing. And they're using repeating words as attention getters, and then you count the amount of times the words repeat. There's a lot going on that is going to be down the road. I will get into the numbering and all of that later on. That becomes part two. Part one really is just recognizing what those two templates are that are not hidden in the numbers. We can go through this and find a self-healing path, how we came about in life, and a self-healing path by going through this material and seeing how it works. Now, let me say this. I typically don't say things like this, but this is what I see, honestly. At the level of the template, there is no supernatural. There is no belief in something beyond. What there is a turning inward and healing one's life experience now. That sounds too simplistic, though. There is a procedure where there is a higher awareness, a consciousness, the memories themselves, and the way that we flow through life that are all taken into consideration, and how you can work these together in a blend for self-healing. It's not just a matter of turning in and letting things go. There's a process. We already know I need to let that go in order to feel better. So, okay, I let it go. Then you go on life going, why is it not going away? There's a procedure that needs to be followed for that to go. That's what's in here. It is hidden in verbiage, though, that is meant to have people that have issues, that look for help, that look for mental sanctity. This teaching, this shell, the words, the puzzle that the verbal puzzle that this is nested in is something that provides a supernatural outlook and for something for people to hang on to that won't turn inward. Yet at any point in time, you can use this material to turn inward, but everybody uses it looking outward. We don't know to do that with it. We learn that by learning that from other places and doing that with other material, from Buddha's material and Lao Tzu's material, and then coming back and experimenting and realizing, they're doing the same thing. They're just doing it in their own flavor, their own verbiage, their own different carrying case. It's a different arc. And that's metaphoric. It's a carrier for this. So it's a puzzle, and the puzzle has all of the pieces in it. If you think about it, if you're a kid, 15-year-old kid, 3,500 years ago, and you're going off for the next month to take care of your goats up in the mountains where they need to be for a while the grass is good up there, and you've got this story memorized, and that's what you do up there. This is your iPhone. You get up every day and you think about this, and all the pieces and parts are there. All the puzzle parts are in the story if you have it memorized properly. And very briefly, what that would look like is something like this. You know that the creation story has one point where there's a day 7 where God rested, and God said that 3 times. So that's what we're going to be working on when we get to the numbers. That's where it starts, the 7-3 grid. But you would be able, if you had it memorized, to sit there and go, you know what? Right after the flood, when God kept his covenant with Noah, covenant was said 7 times. When they were going to go to Sodom, and Abraham was talking to God and asking him about would he, destroy it for the sake of X amount of righteous, that right there, righteousness is said exactly 7 times. That there's something that starts emerging patterned in the background if we had it memorized. I'm going to be using the computer. We don't have this. We don't have what it takes to see this right now. If you don't have it memorized, we lost access to it. And just to let you know what is up ahead is what happens here is that, in a nutshell, this is what I'm going to attempt to show here, to attempt to demonstrate throughout this video series, is that first of all is those two templates are there, and that we have to understand how those templates work. Second of all, we want to repeat that healing template over and over and over again throughout our material, because that's what life is about. Constantly going in and resolving inner issues until you don't have any inner issues. Whatever emerges, you resolve it. And we're disconnecting from things. We're letting go of stuff. It's mental. It's a mental process that we're doing, and we need to understand how we read the material to put ourselves in there. So that's one layer right there, and that is where the real tricky part comes in us learning how to manage the material in the mental hierarchy and how to interpret it in the psyche, making it mentally interactive. That is what is there. Now, in order for them to repeat it, what they're doing is they're creating a parallel numbering system, a grid system next to the life steps, so that instead of saying, well, at this point in time in life, when you were happy and hadn't experienced life yet, we can also call that 7 or 3. Then we're going to take that 7 and 3 and find ways of repeating sequences that are going to show up in certain ways that point to other numbers, so that the 7-3 pile that is parallel to naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden, all 3 of those places, I got to be careful what I say, all 3 of those terms, they're analogous terms, they're analogs. What the story represents at that point, Adam and Eve, naked and unashamed, is our self-aware self as children while we're still happy, before we've gone off and begun to experience life. That's a starting point for us, where from there things go bad after day 7. So what would be first sin? How about 8? When a circumcision happened, day 8. Wicked is going to show up as we go and do a search 8 times. There's going to be sequencing like that going on that is kind of mind-boggling. We just have to start looking at it. But the numbering system is what makes it complicated. So we'll look at that. That'll be the second part. First part, we need to understand what that template is and how it's made and how to read it, and pretend that it's 3,500 years ago and we're living in their time and that we have their knowledge and not ours. That's going to take some doing. What I want to do, though, is start a little bit differently. Since I know what the template is, instead of trying to work through the material and get to the template, I'm going to stop talking about Genesis right now and just talk about the human life experience. Let's build our own template first that we recognize that is our life sequence. Then let's take that template and go to Genesis and see what shows up. Okay, just think about this for yourself. I'm going to throw a few things up front that we have to know because it's in the material, but as far as the life sequence, just compare this to your life and what you know. This is for you. If this is a personal healing path, you have to look at this and put yourself into this. So this is the human life sequence we're going to turn this into a template. We are born from the cosmic background. We are emergent from the quantum field. Now, it doesn't say that in the material. That's what we know today, and there's a reason why we need to know that. There's a good reason to put that up there. Now, honestly, it is so big that there's a point where there are things like this that are important to explain, and they need to be explained, but I'm going to glaze over them now because it's such a big thing that it's kind of gets in the way of what we're doing. What we know today, though, is that quantum field is there, and what we're going to be eventually doing is realizing that within material, there is some sort of psychic or some sort of a supernatural, something that happens in the background sometimes, and we're going to need to explain that. That is why I'm putting that up there. It is going to feature as a part of all of that supernatural stuff actually being natural. We become mental from the cosmos and physical on Earth, but we don't have the awareness to know that yet. So we have a higher self that we're going to find later on. But at this point in time when we're first born, we don't have enough brain connections to even be self-aware. We're acting and we're reacting, we're crying, we're doing things that are automatic. But think back on it. Do you remember it? No, the brain connections weren't there for the memory to be there. We may have experiences still stored from that area, from that time, though, that we're not aware of. I'm going to have to hunt those down. Anyway, all that exists within our life experience is based on cause and effect. This is universal. Even planets form and stars explode due to cause and effect. This is an important constant. We will have life experiences through this. Yeah, that cause and effect is an important thing in this process. It is how we observe our life. Patterns emerge by cause and effect and cycles. What is that? Patterns. We're looking for patterns of behavior, and then we're looking for what causes them. When we look at our life, we're going to see that we're living through that. We need to interrupt that. Everything cycles from the cause and effect. Repeats occur. That these are things that are going to be set in motion. No matter what, when you go through life, this is how it works. We have fixed mental qualities at birth. This is due to brain types, preferences like sexual preferences, etc. There's people that like to tinker with stuff, that are engineers, like to build stuff and figure things out. There's people that like to go off exploring, wandering. There's different brain types that just, there's different kinds of brains, yeah. We develop an awareness that is not there at birth, though. That's what happens. We show up and we have certain things that we don't have any control over, and then we begin to have life experiences. And those are things that we didn't show up with. The stuff we showed up with is not malleable. The stuff that we learn later is. That's going to be important to know. Once we gain enough memory connections, we begin to increase our self-awareness. The self-awareness comes from our bundle of memories blended with our brain types. We live through this inner collection of memories and the way we experience them, the emotional state of them. Number 7, there's a point in time where when we're young, we are children, happy and self-aware, uncovered by any hurtful life experience. That's when we're happy little kids just playing, and we could run around naked and not even care. We just don't even care. It doesn't matter to us. The world is insignificant. But then we begin to judge our qualities of perceived life. What happens to you? You get beat, you get told, shut up, sit down. Get over here, you stupid little. You get all those things. We begin to judge those qualities of perceived life and start to live through those judged experiences. We see the real world and how it hurts. It isn't cookies in a sandbox anymore. We begin to hide things from others. We begin to harbor our fears, shame, and hurt. Then we go off in life, learning and attaching to life. This is normal. It's how we learn about life from where we emerge. Wherever you're born from, you have no control over that. You're that egg. Congratulations, we made it. We got here. Now what do? We connect to our experiences and live through them. We experience hurt every time our hidden, unresolved pain emerges from our memories. They trigger and hurt us and those around us. Yeah, the stuff that we got that we just don't have control over. Or stuff that maybe we don't act out. Maybe we try to hide it, but we just feel in turmoil, sick over it, while we're trying to put on a happy face. Meanwhile, you don't feel it. The feeling is it's important. Our early, unaware self takes over. Look back on it. That happy, good outlook, let all that go. We learn from life experiences at this point, but we judge them incorrectly. We do not see that they are from cause and effect, and so we simply are part of the greater sea of people. Yeah, we attach to what's already done. Whatever happens physically is manifested from a deeper energy. As long as we're attaching to what is already manifested, we're attaching to what is already done. We're like living in the past, sort of thinking we're going forward. Let me actually try to provide an analogous example of that. If you were, for example, watching a parent whip on their child, I'm going to use that as part of my life experience from my childhood. If you observe a parent whipping on a child, do you look at that and go, that parent what are they doing? What do they have children for? They don't deserve kids. That's how we first live life. At some point, when you wake up and you begin to understand cause and effect and how you fit into things, you no longer view it that way. You look at that and you don't just see a parent whipping a kid. You see a lineage. You see that parent being a kid getting whipped and never getting it resolved. You begin to realize that there's something deeper in play right there. And instead of you just saying, oh, they this, they that, you step back and go, oh, here's what's actually going on. I can observe it. They can't. They're stuck in it. That's the difference. We live through our local group. We lose our capacity to resolve issues. We are our unaware self at this point in time in life. We marry, we get jobs, and time goes by. It may take a while for a person to be ready to turn inward in an effort to change one's life. We have two lives. The second one begins once we realize we only have one life to live. Time passes by. Think back on it. You look back on it, you're ready to turn inward now, but you look back and go, man, there were times I was just not at all. Time had to go. I had to be ready. I had to get to a point where I was ready. At long last, we feel trashed. Our mental state and inner turmoil need to be destroyed in some manner. It hurts our very existence. We are acting out, blind to the fact that our inner, unresolved pile of issues are causing us to hurt others. We are selfish, living tightly within our general emotional state. We have lost our childhood innocence and sense of wonder. We no longer have trust and struggle to find enough joy. Okay, what does that sound like? That should be people's life. Most people live the life like that. That right there. Does that sound familiar? That was my life. How about you? How about everybody? Yeah, most people are going to live somewhere like that. The level of pain might not be there. There might be people that go, I was told I was wonderful. I had everything good happen. Okay, this is not your path. We're trying to get where you already are, where you were naturally, we were not. Okay, so we have to find our pathway to get to where there's where there is no longer unresolved issues. But if you look back on your life, you kind of see that is what happened. You come about, there's certain things about you have no control over. You learn certain stuff that, personality things, leave me alone. I'm like me. I like to be an introvert. I like to do this or that or whatever. That's my thing. I enjoy that. I don't have to be like other people. We know that we have variations there, but we also know then that we become products of where we come from. You can take triplets at birth, 3 kids born from the same mother, from the outback. Raise one of them in Saudi Arabia, one in Alabama, and one in China, and bring them together after 40 years and watch how different they are. They won't talk the same. They won't sound the same. Even if they look identical, they won't have the same beliefs. What happened? We become products of where we come from. We need to know that we are products living through our experiences. unbeknownst to us. We're not aware of that at first. Nobody is. Unless you're raised somewhere where people do know that already and they train you that way as you're growing up. That's not us. We're trying to find our way into the material. So this is our is it template or temple? It's about the same, huh? Anyway, okay, let me get back on track here. Then what happens? We start out real happy. You have you have bad experiences that begin to cycle over and over again. Time goes by. At some point in time, you're just frazzled, aren't you? Now, right here is an important transitional point. This right here is the life experience, and this right here is going to be the core of the creation template right there. That is the creation template. Once you've interpreted it, this is where it will take you. So if we just start there and then come back and look, I went back and edited this in. You know what? It's a bad thing to call it a creation template. I keep doing that because it emerges in Genesis through creation. What it really should be called is the human life cycle template. And it could be nested in a creation myth or in different kinds of myths. So it is not a creation. If I call it that, I'm still working on this. It is ultimately the human life cycle. Everybody lives on that template. Therefore, it is not a creation of ourselves. It's much bigger than that. It's your entire life cycle. And it ends right there unless you turn inward. Then it continues and the monomyths pick up. Most people live up to this point right here and then stay right there. What they're doing is saying, okay, take this information and pass it around. Tell everybody what I just said right there. You got to forgive the person who, no way. That's never going to happen. Well, what happens then, unbeknownst to us, as we live through life with that emotion as being a part of us, and that emotion being something that continually acts out because it's there. It doesn't matter whether you put it there or not. What matters is that you're carrying it there, and that is a very difficult thing to do. Not many people are going to go, okay, yeah, I got to get out of myself. It's not about me. I'm not those memories. I'm something bigger. And if I can't let go of it, I'm stuck. You need to get it to the people that are like that, but it's going to go into a population that's going to say, I'm not telling people that. I won't do it myself. So what do? You take that template that we have identified, that we are mental products living through, well, we know the quantum field is there, that we're living continually through the memories of our life experiences, and that what we don't like about our life experiences is because we fit there. We have to change that. You take that template and tell people, here, pass this around so people know how to heal themselves, and they're not going to do that. Well, then make up a story where each of these steps has analogous and metaphorical representations in the physical world that really continually repeat back to this. So that's what we're going to see, and this is where the artistic rendering has to kind of come in. You have to step back from it and see a concept in the story. And by concept, what I mean is exactly this right here. Listen to these short, really examples right here. An anchored ship cannot sail. The goat chained outside the tent cannot escape. You cycle around that which you cling to. At some point you listen to those and go, despite the fact that they have different verbiage, there's something in the background that seems like it's in there. An anchored ship cannot sail. The goat chained, can't escape. If you put yourself into those stories suddenly and say, you know what, that's a message at a soul level right there. That's a spiritual teaching that I've nested in. It would have to be in a body of work that you knew that. But what you're doing right there is you're creating a story that's, or just a short little block that somebody that knows says, I am the ship, I am the goat, I am whatever the story represents, the one that's grasping onto something. The teaching represents me, and grasping onto something is a mental process that what I'm holding on to continues to emerge. And you can put it in a variety of different ways. That's what I mean when I say conceptual understanding. We're not looking at things at face value. They have to fit someplace, but they have to make sense. And we have to be consistent with doing it. And I'm going to treat everything in the Bible exactly the same way. There's no point where I interpret some stuff and not others. Every bit of it is interpreted. Every bit of it follows the same story pattern. This is a compact, dense book. Genesis is significant. And finally, and this will kind of emerge more as we go along, but every bit of these stories play out in the psyche. When you read a monomyth, you become the person in the story. We're going to become Adam and Eve. God is going to be the higher awareness. The offspring are going to be the memories that we have put away, good ones and bad ones. The grace is the glory of God is going to be the flow in life. All of the elements are going to be there, held in ways that sound very religious, but when you put them on the template, they're just different analogs that still fit the same way. Here's a real easy one to see, actually. And you know what? We all see these. We just don't treat them the right way. If we treat them in a certain way, they become the same thing. Okay, so in the Jason and the Argonaut story, if you look, first thing he does is he crosses a river as he starts off on the adventure, losing a sandal and meeting up with King Pelias. Right here, what we just demonstrated was Jason is your conscious self when you're going on the journey. Crossing the river right there and losing a sandal is you've gone from the outer physical world, you've now crossed inward, and King Pelias represents your earlier self. King Pelias took over the kingdom from Jason's father. This represents the idea that you don't have control of your kingdom. I, Jason, want to get control of my world, my experience back. So I have to go turn inward, cross the threshold, and defeat Pelias, who represents my earlier self. So these turn around and play inward, and all of the component parts are not only hierarchical, in a hierarchy, but they're also sliced up over time, and they're also different facets of who and what we are. There's parts we go, yeah, I'm done. There's other parts where we go, oh, I caved in, I gave in, I failed. Those are going to be different facets in the stories. They play out up here in the most old-fashioned way that makes it difficult to access them. It's like they're playing them out three-dimensionally in the mind, or at least the potential is there. And if you don't play it out three-dimensionally in the mind, it's something you want to carry. But if you turn it inward, what unfolds is this path of, gathering up your resources, turning inward, defeating the enemy, all of that sort of thing. We see it in other material. Jesus would say, enter the narrow gate. Outward looking, there are many ways outward that lead to destruction, but only one way. The narrow gate is up here. There's one by a 13th century Persian mystic, Rumi, and it was something like, I've been standing on the lip of insanity, wanting to know reasons, knocking, the door opens. I've been knocking from the inside. It conjures up the idea that through life you're like, what, why? You're looking outward, not until it opens up and you realize it's up here. Do you realize where the issues are, where you need to be? But all of them are hinting to this idea that we have to turn up and play them out in the mind. The Buddha in the Dhammapada is going to be so plain language, it's stark. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It's founded on our thoughts. It's based in our thoughts. Yeah, you want to change things, you go right up here and do it. So right there's just this realization that these are mental processes and memories that we're going to be going through and how we came about. The material, all of it is like our gurus, all of them teaching the same thing, but in 1,000 different languages. Actually, that's pretty oversimplified, isn't it? They're not just languages. They have different impact, different effects. The carrying case is something that is also designed to manage a population until anybody in that population is ready to turn inward and find the template, the core template. So it becomes a pretty consistent package. Okay, are we on board with that then? We see how we came about. Everybody came about in the same way. And I'm going to treat this material, because I realize it's there now and we'll see it, that they're using a very old style. I mean, obviously, 3,500 years ago. How old is the Bible? How old is Genesis? Probably older than that, the original stories. So it's going to be something that's kind of unfamiliar to us as we're going through here, but we're looking for concepts in there. We're looking for that cause and effect and the happiness and peace in life and all of those sorts of things in there. We should find somehow the story managing to hold something that looks like it belongs at that part of our life. So let's go to Genesis and see what we get. All right, I would like to talk about something here as we're getting into it and I start the analysis. That there are two creation stories. Does everybody see that? I think most people do. There are people out there that try to argue that they somehow blend together, but if you look, you will see that they use different verbiage and they're teaching different things. There's one that goes all the way up through day 7, and the next one talks about the Garden of Eden itself and the 5 rivers. It covers something different all the way down to where Adam and Eve were created in the garden. They were naked, unashamed, which does not appear in the first creation story. Okay, now, if there are two creation stories, why is this chapter break right here in number 2? That doesn't start the story. Does that matter? Yes, it does. First of all, it was Stephen Langton, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who put in the chapter breaks. In fact, I'll read this very quickly from the internet here. History of Bible chapters. Codices, books, were the format in which the Bible was read for over 1,000 years across Christendom. So while they were writing, they were just read as books. Then in the early 13th century, the Archbishop of Canterbury, still at that time a Catholic diocese, Stephen Langton, invented a new way to subdivide the books of the Bible into a more digestible format, the chapter. And that was a good thing to do because you want to make comparisons with people that now you're being able to write letters and talk long distances and whatnot. So there's a method to the madness. However, it was not original, and that's important to know. And if you go through the Bible, I'm just going to pick a few here randomly. Cain murders Abel. There we go. Now the man knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain. But the last one was, he drove out the humans, and at the east of the garden he placed the cherubim and a sword flaming. Anyway, what we see here is one story ends, and then the next chapter begins. There's another one that begins. I went through that too much. I'd step back. You know what? Here's what we have. We have 50 chapters in Genesis, and each chapter has a specific story. That's it. If you're reading a book, you're going to end one chapter, you're going to go to the next. You're not going to end a chapter, mid-conversation with two people that's going to not be a part of the next chapter, really, except you're going to finish it off there, the last couple of lines, and then move on to something different. That would be completely out of place. You're going to go from chapter to chapter. When you go through Genesis, all of the chapter breaks are logically like that except for one. Right there where the two creation myths are put together. Langton purposefully overlapped that. He knew what he was doing. If he put these in here, he was perfect everywhere except for that one spot. Why is that? Was that to get our attention, or was it to try and hide that? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to suggest that we're going to manage this in a different way. We look at it linearly and we can't. So I'm going to do some things like lining things up in a different way that if they were in our head, we would have the capacity to do that. I'm going to do it here. What I'm going to do is put the two creation stories side by side, but I'm going to take that chapter, I'm going to separate the stories properly. I'm not going to use Langton's chapter break. I'm going to use the story break. Okay, first thing, Genesis 1. I'm going to be using the NRSV, the updated edition this time. If you see these spelling anomalies right here, all that is the patterns that are in here are held in repeating words and verbiage, names. So these ones that have been added in that you're going to be searching for, you want to make sure you don't create yourself false hits on these right here. So that's all that is about right there. You can still read what it is, but if I'm searching for the number or how many times it says 7, I haven't added one in here. That's what I mean by that. Okay, now what I've got is both of these side by side now. I just copied and pasted them to a different form. So you see we got the first creation story, 7 days, and I've got it going all the way down here to where it says, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. That was after God rested on day 7. Okay, that finishes that story. That tells us right there. And the next one tells us when the next one starts. In the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, when no plant of the field was yet in the earth, and no vegetation of the field had yet sprung up. It's an older version, but here we have a creation story starting now. And then it goes through, and it doesn't do the 7 days. It does something different. It's got 5 rivers coming out that's teaching something different. But the thing that we're looking for is that there is an alignment at the end here. That if we understand that the that the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed are going to be a place on the template that represents our life. That represents our life, a time in our life. If we are man and woman, that means we are conscious and we are self-aware. We have memories. We know what to do. We can function in life. We're not just little babies babies function. They cry, they react automatically, but they don't have memories. We can think back on it and see that it's not there. So that is before this time. This is the time where we are little kids, happy, playing. We are aware of existence, but we're not yet hurt by life. We're naked, which means that we're not covered by anything. We're not ashamed. We haven't accumulated any life experiences that we want to hide. We don't have hurt yet. We're pure little beings right here. And then if we compare that over, this is where the 3 and the 7 are going to come into play. If we were to go through number 7, and I'm going to as we go through here, on day number 3 is where cause and effect comes into play. So right down here on day 7, we've got 7 said 3 times, so 7 and 3 are being combined. And if you put them parallel to naked, unashamed in the garden, what we're going to find out is that 3 and that 7 are going to start creating a grid that brings us back to here. It's going to be parallel to working this to this point in time in our life while hiding it. Okay, so basically what this is then is I'm going to be using the day 1 through 7 creation myth to establish the steps that start the human life, all the way down to 7. But when we get to day 7, where it's said 3 times, that is going to equally represent the part of the template where we are naked and unashamed and in the garden. Throughout this, we're going to be building the mental hierarchy. So let's go back first and take a look at the list we had, and then go back and take a look at Genesis 1, verse 1. Okay, the first one that we have here is that we are born from the cosmic background. I remember I said we are emergent from the quantum field, and that does not say that in the material. I just added that in because we know that today. We know that the quantum field is really in the background, that all energy, all matter, which is energy, everything is emergent from that background quantum field. There is something there. Now in Taoism, there is this idea in pretty plain language that we come from the universe, and when we die, we return to the universe. And that's what I'm going to suggest. This is going to be the same thing in Genesis when we read Genesis 1:1, but it will not sound that plain language. Okay, right here is the first hurdle that we have to get over. We have to understand something right here. That this cosmic background, this quantum field, is something that we have mental access to. It's going to be God. That's why it's important to know what this is. God is doing the creation right now, and God can create good or bad. What the heck is that about? And why does that happen? I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. Okay, again, and this is where we just have to look at this and understand that they have put a supernatural teaching on an actual template that is mentally accessible. So, what is God? How do we access God? God is in my heart. God lives in my heart. Beat, 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 boom, boom, pumping blood? No. What is your heart? That is the way you feel based on your emotional state of existence. That's where God lives. God lives in a happy place, in the mind. So, we can access this by getting to a mental state, the people that can do this, where you can stand outside of your emotional experience and view yourself as an outside entity at yourself. That is you looking at yourself from your higher awareness right there. If you're the kind of person that tosses and turns at night, wakes up at 3 a.m. with something that just frazzles you and you can't get to sleep, and you've got this mental conflicting dialogue going on, but there's a third part once in a while that steps in that tries to tell you to be at peace. Relax. There's nothing you can do tonight. Just go to sleep. Let it go. But what happens? The feelings take back over. We don't realize that's the higher awareness. We don't give it attention. We slip back into the feelings, and we struggle with this until we're so fatigued maybe fall back asleep at 5:30, for 10 minutes before the alarm goes off or some crazy stuff. That right there is evidence of where the higher awareness is, and we need to nurture that. That is not all there is to God. That's just our access to it. Now, when we're young, we don't have access to it, but as we live, we're living life unaware of the fact that we're living with God. But we're living as sinners. What that means is we're living unaware of what we're doing, and we are creating our life experience based on the way we judge it. So we're using God in that moment to create who and what we are. We don't just become this. Where does the energy for the stored memories to come from in a universe where if you've created energy from up here that continues to act out, where did that energy come from? So they're literally realizing back then that the way you live your life and the way you judge your life is the way you create your life. They're going to be describing this as the way that you are using God before you're aware of it. Which means really the way we're living life and creating life based on the energy of the universe, but we're holding it up here in a memory and an emotional state based on a perception that is continuing to live out, but God is blessing or cursing those who bless you or curse you. This is where cause and effect comes into place. God is that higher awareness. Actually, I didn't state that right. That higher awareness is our access, our personal access to the God right there, to that part of us. But God, honestly, is a non-thinking. It's the quantum field. It doesn't think, it just provides. You're the one that thinks, and you're the one that asks for what you want, unbeknownst to you. I got beat. That hurts. I hate you. I just asked for that energy. I am now creating my life based on my mental perceptions. I don't even know it. I feel shame. I'm creating that. Here's the energy for it. Continue to live your life that way. God is granting you whatever you want. This is living the life as a sinner, but it's really not sinning, doing bad. It's living life unaware. Everything has to be translated. Sinning is an analog. Okay, so do we understand that? All right, I wanted to make clear that this is a difficult one right here. God is really the provider of all things, but God is it's an unthinking energy field that just, you become what your life experience is while you're unaware of it. And if you want to change the way you feel, then you have to go back and change the way you perceived your life experiences along the way. This would be, doesn't Don Miguel Ruiz in Four Agreements say that it's a universal teaching, that we live through our agreements? That's exactly what's happening here. We start living through our judged life experiences. That's going to come about later. But God is the one that provides all that. But God is really not a thinking entity. God is this massive energy that says, you're aware. What do you want? You got it. Yeah. Have your experience. You want to hate? You want to feel shame? Go for it. You want to feel joy? Go for it. Yeah, whatever you want. I'll give you anything. God will bless you or curse you. Okay, so I classify God as something we have mental access to, but only in one region, but that we are using the energy that we have access to all the time in life. We just do it either unaware or aware, either out of control or in control, either responding to what is there and becoming part of that, or stepping back from it and not becoming a part of that. Those are the things that we're learning to do, that when we first start, we become products of all of that. We are now a part of this local experience, and that's a local experience. What are you really? We're bigger than that. How many people can get there? So God is, in that case, we're living through a higher self. But I mean, I don't like using the term God in this case. That is what is carried in this material as the higher awareness, as well as, and you can see why I call it the quantum field. We know that everything emerges from the quantum field. And if you put that in here as God, you go, yep. You know what? That fits the bill. Everything emerges from God. We come along and we decide what life is like based on our experiences unaware to us, and God gives us the very energy to continue to live life that way until we forgive the odd against our brother. It's really wrapped up tight, but it'll emerge really, I think, quite readily. Okay, I want to go to Genesis now, and let's see how that sounds. Let's take a look at a few things. You can see this is deep. There's a lot of layers. They lived it. Their lives. Okay, from the NRSV Updated Edition, it reads, When God began to create the heavens and the earth was complete chaos, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, Let there be light. And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, the first day. All right, we have to put ourselves in this story. Everything is analogous. We know what God is. God is everything. God began to create the heavens and the earth. What are the heavens and the earth? We think of them as a place to live after you die and a place to live now to try to figure out how to get to the place, how to get to heaven. Okay. What the earth is going to emerge in all of this material is our personal experience. Ultimately, what it is going to be is the bundle of memories that you live through. It is your earth. You are in this story. This is about you. This is about me. The earth is about my life experience. What is my earth like? And I don't mean the earth that we share. I mean what is my mental experience like on earth? What is my earth like? When the earth has to be destroyed because it's bad, that's the earth that has to be destroyed, not the physical earth. The heavens is the place above it all, where when we're living on the earth, we're living unaware. When we're living from the heavens, we are aware and we're detached. So both of these are not in place. The earth was complete chaos. This is just, we haven't started yet. And darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, Let there be light, and there was light. Right here, and God separated the light from the darkness. We're born at this point. This is us being born. And God said, Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. This is where our awareness is not connected to the higher awareness. We're separated from that. We come from a higher awareness, but we don't know it yet. God called the dome sky, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. Sky is going to be our thinking. What do we get to when we get to number 3? And God said, Let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place. The waters gathered into one place are in our metaphoric somehow in our mind. And let the dry land appear. The dry land is our mental experience. The dry land. The world, the physical experience. Where was I? God called the dry land earth. That's our experience. The earth is going to have to be destroyed. That's going to represent our experience. This is who and what we are. This is our mind. And the waters that were gathered together, he called sea, and God saw that it was good. So we've got a conscious and we've got a subconscious. Then look at this repeat right here. Then God said, Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on the earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. Remember, we are the earth. Our mind is the earth. Let the earth put forth vegetation. Let us begin to what grows from our garden, what emerges from us, our life experience. Plants, this is metaphoric, whatever we are acting out of us. The plants that grow from us are the way we experience life, the way we act out, the way we live life. But we have all potential right here. It's all everything there, but it says, you can see here, the fruit trees of every kind on the earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. So the earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And that was the third day. This is cause and effect, and it's repeated. You see that then God said, Let it happen. Then the earth did do it. Then God said it. then it did. Then God said, then it did. This is one way you can separate and see that the two creation stories are different. If you go through the 5-day creation, it does none of that repeating. It has a completely different style to it. We'll get to that. But up here, it all repeats as it's calling things in. There's something different going on between the two creation stories once you analyze them. 3rd day right there, we got cause and effect, and we've got a consciousness and a subconscious. And everything is preloaded. Everything that your life experience can be is already there. And God said, let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be signs of seasons for days and years. Okay, we have cycles. Days, seasons, for days and years. Cycles again. Let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth. Now, this is talking about creation, so it's very big, but this is calling it into cycles. Let's stop for a second. What did I say back here? Number 1 was we emerge. Let's go back and look at our list for a second here. What did we have? We are born from the cosmic background, where we are emergent from the quantum field. Then number 2, on day 2, we become mental from the cosmos and physical on earth, but we don't have the awareness to know that yet. Our higher awareness lives right here, but we must live life first and hope to learn to go back and experience life through this higher awareness later in life. We need to go out and get experiences and then learn, and then come back and live through here while leaving those experiences behind. We have to get back to the beginning. What did we have here? Yeah, God created, we emerged, and then we get separated. Okay, so you can see that it's dense, but if you can see that it's held in the verbiage, you can begin to see that there is an emergence of something that appears in, again, you have to read it conceptually. There are concepts in here. They are not true stories. They are holding a concept, a puzzle. And what I'm finding here is common across myth and religion from antiquity. So that gives me confidence in what I'm finding here. We can find it in very plain language. This is it's a very thick and colorful way of putting it in, creating a actual creation when it's holding the same thing about us. This is a human life. This is us being born. In fact, I'm going to grab one quick example. This is a pretty plain language one. It's from the Kabbalion. I'm not going to talk about the Kabbalion. I think I've got videos up on it from Other Things Interpretation. All of these are written by humans, okay, whatever they claim is a source. But here is what, right in the beginning, the 7 Hermetic principles. This is not a creation. This is just how life works. The principle of mentalism. It's mental. The principle of polarity, positive or negative, good or bad, how does it feel? The principle of rhythm, that's cycles. The principle of cause and effect, that's cause and effect. You can see in plain language that they're telling you that that's how life works, and if you look at it, you go, yep, that's how life works. I can see that. I don't need anybody to tell me that. I can look at that and see it, and then understand that in Genesis is a super thick way, very old, of putting those in. Let's review 3 again. All that exists within our life experience is based on cause and effect. This is universal. Even planets form and stars explode due to cause and effect. This is an important constant. We will have life experiences through this. And what we're going to get to here is that whatever we have put away, the seed that's been planted, is going to continue to produce the fruit of its nature. Whatever experience we have, the pain, the shame, the hurt, the anger, is going to continue. As long as we've got it put away like that, it is going to continue to act out in that very same nature. That this is a life experience that is going, we're not here, we're not ready to go yet. This is telling us how it's going to work. This is how life's going to happen. This is our guru telling us, yep, you're going to have cause and effect. And then number 4, everything cycles from cause and effect. Repeats occur constantly. And what did we have on our list? Or what did we have in the Bible? What we have is, let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons. Do you see that? For seasons? That's a cyclical. It's going to go and go and go. It comes and goes. Whenever it emerges, it's time for it to emerge. For days and years, it's going to just continue on. and let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth. Now, these are good things, though, but this is telling us that everything is going to be moving in cycles no matter what. And God made the two great lights, the greater one to rule the day and the lesser one to rule the night and the stars. And we know that's right. We know that's not right, right? Because about half the time when the moon is up at midnight, the other half of the time it's up at midday. Well, I mean, it's going in between the two. It swings back and forth. So we don't have the sun in the day and the moon at night. What we have is the sun in the day and the moon cycling around, not in quite in sequence. So it falls in and out of phase with it. So yeah, this is about our life. Everything is going to cycle. The stuff that is from physical and the stuff that is also from stored away. And what did we have cycling here? We had everything cycles from cause and effect. Okay, number 5, we have fixed mental qualities at birth, brain types. We've got certain preferences, etc. We develop an awareness that is not there at birth. At first we just cry for things. Somebody has to care for us. Later on, we can maybe start asking for things. You can reach out and want a banana, want a bottle, want a nipple of some sort, something. We can start doing things, and at some point, this is going to start happening. But that's what's happening at this point. We have fixed mental qualities at birth. There are things that we are born with that we don't have any control over. And then we begin developing our awareness. But let's see what that looks like in the Bible. Okay, I realize that this gets long, that there's a lot of depth to it, and I can get verbose. Let me try to kind of rush through this first part right here. I think people see what's going on. And God said, let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures. The living creatures, the birds that fly, all of that stuff are the experiences that are in our world. When you look inside of your life, what is in there? What is swimming inside of you in the depths? What is flying around in your mind across the dome of the earth? What are your thoughts? What is in control of? So God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that moves of every kind. This is God preloading everything into it. This is saying that we are coming with certain qualities, and that be fruitful and multiply, fill the waters and the seas, let the birds multiply in the earth. We're going to grow. We're going to have things are going to expand. Okay, maintaining our conceptual review here. Number 5 is what we just covered there. We have fixed mental qualities at birth. There are certain brain types we arrive with. We have certain preferences. We develop an awareness that is not there at birth. We begin to develop an awareness that's not there at birth. Okay, so we're still on target with Genesis here, except that we just have to interpret it. If you can see the concepts that are in there. And then God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle and creeping things of life. So again, God is calling everything and then bringing man into existence. Let us make humans in our image. So now your consciousness is going to come about, but you're going to be in the same quality of that cosmic nature. Okay, we are of that quantum field. That's why things cycle and move in waves all the time, and there's cause and effect, because that's the way the quantum fields work. We are in and of those. We cannot escape them. It will be this way no matter what. We emerge from that. It's like being a drop of water in the ocean, and the ocean is moving in waves. You cannot stay stationary in that ocean. You're going to be moving. So, okay, let's just go on down here. So God blessed them and everything. What we have here is God created man, humans in his image, created male and female. He created them. This doesn't go into the detail of the Adam and Eve on this story. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Okay, now what we are, male and female, we need to identify this. These are all new analogs. This sounds like that's the male and the female on planet Earth, and it's not. It's the male and the female that is in your mind. Like God is in your mind, so is the male and the female. But it's maintained in a mental hierarchy. The male is the conscious, and the female is the subconscious. It is, in their culture, a patriarchal society, and we still see that's very common in the world today, that the males are maintained as dominant over the females. And a lot of that is maintained in this because of this type of material. A lot of that is kept in place. People treat it literally. But what we have here is the male is the conscious of each person and the female is the subconscious of each person. And the reason that it's set up that way is the conscious mind always is making decisions about what the life experience is and remembering that with an emotional state. And in doing so, that is what is creating the earth or the female, the part that is stored with all of these parts. You're creating a life existence now on your earth, on your world experience, due to the life experiences that you're having and the way you're judging them, the way you're classifying them. In fact, we haven't got there yet, but you can see I've put down children already. Those are going to be the memories, or also known as the seeds. So we've got God, that we all come from there. The consciousness is having the experiences. The woman is the subconscious, and the woman is going to grow and develop and always be there. You never want the woman to be gone. You just want the woman to be pure. But what is the purity? Purity comes from the man himself. The man is the one that puts everything into the woman and the quality of it. So we need to know that and not blame the woman, but understand that it is man, it is conscious, and the higher awareness that we have to use to heal ourselves. That those are children, that those become the memories. And those are, the woman is always going to be there because we're always going to have memories and we're always going to live through our capacity to grasp and understand life. Or it might be better to look at it this way, that whenever you are living from the higher awareness, you are very cognitive and hyper aware of what's going on. You're very paying attention. There are times where you just drift off and you're living life, and whatever is happening in your day-to-day existence is coming from the background. You're not consciously putting anything into it. You're just living life. That is what the difference is between living through the higher awareness or living through the subconscious. We're always going to be living through the subconscious off and on. Constantly, when we're not paying attention, whatever comes out of us is what's in the background. The question is, can we observe that and change the nature of that? Okay, again, due to the depth of this, and I want to get through this first template here, I'm just going to try to move on here. And if I go to, I'm just going to go to the end of the second creation story before it ends, where the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed in the Garden of Eden. What we have right down here is, so out of the ground, the Lord God formed animal of the field, and that's not where I want to get. Here we go. There was not a helper as his partner. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. We know this story. Out of the rib. This is coming from us. This is not, this is, the woman emerges from man because subconscious emerges from conscious life experience. And that's what this is. Then the man said, "This is at last bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." Yeah, this one shall be called woman, for out of man this one was taken. But we are still there. Man and woman are still combined. Therefore, a man leaves his father and his mother. That means your original source, and clings to his wife. That's your inner self. What if the marriage goes bad? And they become one flesh. We want to become unified. We don't want to be acting out in ways. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. So at this point in time, we were one flesh. We did not have any inner conflict. This was life as children right here, naked, unashamed, in the Garden of Eden, parallel to 7 said 3 times, 7 being the day of completion, and 3 being the sequence where we find cause and effect. So what we have here is the beginning of life, ready to go, pure. And life is going to unfold for you based on cause and effect. Oh, by the way, you came preloaded with certain things, but now life is yours, and whatever you decide is what's going to happen. We are ready to go right here. Now, what's next? Okay, I do want to say that out of the Genesis and other material, I would say the Mahabharata, the Indian material, and this Genesis, this Abrahamic material right here, is the thickest, the hardest to kind of grasp what they have going on. The analogs are very old. However they're using those terms, they're still encoding certain processes in there. They're kind of faint to see. I do find that the most difficult part. The rest of this becomes much easier. As long as we know right now that we are at 7 is the point where we're kids ready to live life. We have not yet had life experiences, but we're going to begin living through cause and effect and cycles. What happened next on our list here? What I did is I went from 7 up here. We are children, happy and self-aware, uncovered by any hurtful experience. What happens to us next is that we begin to judge our qualities of perceived life and start to live through those judged experiences. We see the real world and how it hurts. It isn't cookies in a sandbox anymore. We begin to hide things from others. We begin to harbor fears, shame, and hurt. Okay, what happens if we go to Genesis? We get the first sin and its punishment. This is where the woman, represented by, remember, the inner self and the conscious, the serpent represents what then? The serpent is on the ground and cannot rise above the ground, cannot fly, cannot walk. It's kind of stuck. It's stuck grounded. So it's really of the physical earth. And it's the temptation of life saying, come and live the physical life experience. Consume life experience. And that's what happens. And then the woman, what happens as that happens, the woman really, that represents the idea that we are storing an experience away. So the physical is, the man is involved in this, obviously. The man is not blind to this going on. This is the conscious and the subconscious making a decision. Well, no, this is the conscious making a decision about the way an experience is and then storing that away. That is the woman that is actually consuming something right there. That is when the woman consumed something. When the conscious said, I hate this, I'm ashamed of that. Okay, so that experience starts to happen. It goes all the way through. Yes, the story gets big, but in the end, what happens is we're kicked out of the Garden of Eden and put clothing on. So we've lost our happiness and we're sent on our way. And we can't return back to that. We can't get back to the Garden of Eden. We have to find a different place. We have to go to Canaan. The reason for that is simple. Eden existed at a time in our life when we were ignorant of life experience. We can't get back to Eden because we are now aware of life. What we have to do is find happiness while being aware of life. We have to find a way to let go of those experiences. Eden was before the experiences. Okay, so that represents that. Let's go back and look again. We begin to judge our qualities of perceived life and start to live through those judged experiences. There we go. That's the Adam and Eve collection, and Eve and Adam is also having the experience. We're consciously and subconsciously having the experience. We are living life, and yeah, there you go. What happens next? We go off in life, learning and attaching to life. It's normal. It's how we learn about life and what we emerge. We connect to our experiences and live through them. All right, we find that in Genesis here, where remembering now that where we're getting punished here by God, we're being told, or life is just happening automatically. And the man's punishment is this: because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree about which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Okay, so what happened up here is that they consumed life experience. God said, yeah, don't have life experience, don't go do it. We're going to anyway, but that's how the story goes. Now, in toil, you shall eat of it all the day of your life. So we're going to suffer and continue to consume what we already consumed, and that's life experience. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. We're going to continue to have things emerge that are not okay. You shall eat the plants of the field. The plants of the field are going to emerge as a bad thing because they grow on the earth. We want to eat things that are animals. Yeah, we'll get there. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread until you return to the ground, for out of it you are taken. You are dust, and to dust you shall return. Right there. I guess I should have put those together. Okay, this is telling us, the conscious right there, that you're going to go off and live life experience, continuing to suffer through what you've had happen, and you're going to just go ahead and continue to eat the bread of the sweat of your face. You're going to continue to consume. This is spiritual. You're going to continue to consume life with turmoil until you die. That's where you came, and that's where you're going to go back. So that's the punishment you get right there. Okay, but we had ours worded in plain language here. We go off in life, learning and attaching to life. It's normal. It's how we learn about life from where we emerge. We connect to our experiences and live through them. Yeah, we're cursed to do that for a while. When we're not awake, that's how we're going to live life. We're going to go off and live based on what we see. unaware of cause and effect. See, next we experience hurt every time our hidden unresolved pain emerges from our memories. They trigger and hurt all of those around us. Okay, what happens if we go here and look for that concept? Okay, here it is right here. Just before the punishment of Adam, what we have is the punishment to woman. So this is telling your conscious what's going to happen and telling your subconscious what's going to happen. I will make your pangs in childbirth exceedingly great. Remember, we have to maintain that mental hierarchy. The woman is the inner self. The childbirth is the emergent of everything that comes from us. In pain you shall bring forth children. That is from our life experience. When those emerge, every time we scream and yell and something comes out, it's going to be painful. Those are our children. Yet the desire shall be for the husband. We are actually, this is a part of, it's a thick part right here. They're also creating something that goes in their hierarchical society. They want women to follow men. But on the template, what this is telling us right here, your husband shall rule over you. We know that consciously, whatever we decide consciously, and the quality of it is what is stored into the subconscious. That is why the husband rules over the woman. The woman is a product of the husband's choices. Let me say that better. The subconscious is a product of the conscious choices based on the perceptions of our experiences that we hold in place. That inner part of us is subservient to our thinking. The consciousness has to know it's in charge. We have to know that our consciousness is in charge. At first, we don't. We just live life letting that stuff act out, not knowing it. There we have it. That's pangs in childbirth. Live life and go, what the hell is going on? There you go. You're having pangs in childbirth. And it's the conscious choices that made it that way. Okay, let's get back to our list here. This just simply shows where our early unaware self takes over. This is more solidly defining the idea that we are going to be attaching to life experience instead of rising above that. We learn from life experiences at this point. We have to. We don't know any different. That's how we learn about life. But we judge them incorrectly. We do not see the cause and effect, and so we simply are part of the greater sea of people, the local group. We lose our capacity to resolve issues, and we are our unaware self at this point in time in our life. All right, the divided self is represented by Cain and Abel. And what we see also building up in here, I won't get into it too much, but we see that Cain is a tiller of the ground. Remember, Adam's punishment was you must eat of the plants of the ground. And here Cain is a tiller of the ground. So here Cain is actually being represented as the person that's going to be doing that. This is a next iteration of us. They're maintaining that there. In time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. That's like sin again. This is second sin. We had first sin, now we've got sinning again. What this represents is the idea that bringing the Lord the fruit of the ground, this means bringing our self-experiences from the physical realm and storing them away in the inner self. And Abel, for his part, brought the firstlings of his flock, their fat portions. So somehow this is going to figure into a good thing. When we do offerings to God, this is a part of the healing process, but they're building that in here as a good thing to do. But as you look at here, one thing that strikes me is that why would God have regard for Abel and his offering and Cain and not his offering? Here's two people that are bringing you what they do. Here's my fruits that I grow from my garden, and here is the fat from my plant. Why would God like one and not the other? There's a funny division going on right here that just doesn't seem right. This is a metaphorical story that represents ourselves, and whether or not we're bringing something from the offering, something from animals, something good or something from the ground. And so one destroys the other. Cain actually destroys Abel, and that actually represents our early self taking over. And let's go back and look at what we had on the list again. What did it say here? Our early unaware self takes over. We learn from life experiences at this point, but we judge them incorrectly. We do not see the cause and effect, and so we simply are part of the greater sea of people, our local group. We lose our capacity to resolve issues. We are our unaware self. Okay, so this, it represents the division there, but also that that Abel is the unaware self. All right, the next thing we have on our list is that basically time goes by. We marry, we get jobs, and time goes by. We just live our normal life, not knowing. I mean, only people that are going to turn inward later will know this path. If not, you will probably just be on this path and stay on this path right here. You'll never come off of it. It may take a while for a person to be ready to turn inward in an effort to change one's life. That's not nested in this part right here. And then I added something in just as a way to think about it. We have two lives. The second one begins when we realize we only have one life to live. I don't know where that quote comes from. That's not mine. But this is just telling us, yeah, time goes by, we get jobs and marry, things like that, and time passes by. Let's see what the Bible says here. What we have basically is the beginnings of civilization. This is time going on in our life as we're going out. And if we look through here, we're going to see something. There's a number of things going on, but I want to keep it down to the lighter stuff right here, the ones that we're looking for. You can see there's a spot right here where he was the ancestor of those who live in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the ancestor of all of those who play the lyre and the pipe. Remember, this is all playing out in the psyche in some very difficult, bizarre way. They're doing something very old that we're trying to hook into. So this is a little bit different, but right here, we would find this elsewhere. If we were to take a parallel Hebrew example from the books of Enoch, reading in 1 Enoch right in the beginning, and Samjaza taught the casting of spells and root cuttings. Armoros taught counter spells. There's a name I can't pronounce. Taught astrology. Someone else taught constellations, portents, the knowledge of the clouds, constellation cycles, the signs of the earth, cause and effect, the signs of the sun, cycles, and serial, the course of the moon, and the men cherished and cried. Yeah, they've got the same stuff put in here, but there's also that element of teaching people things and time going by. So when you read a lot of different material is when this really starts to emerge. The conceptual stuff, if you see one or two of them, you don't realize it's a concept. You read a lot of them, you begin to see the patterned similarities in them. So right there we have that element. Then if we move on, you would see similar sort of verbiage in there, that there's people that are going off and doing things, people that are living life. This is representing that point in time in our life where it's just going on. And then when we get down here, this Adam's descendants to Noah and his sons, it actually serves a dual purpose. One of them is just, again, there's time that goes by. This is a long time in life as you're going from iteration to iteration. This is you. Look back on your life. At first you were this kind of a person. You went through this, then you become another person, then you become another person. And that would be easily represented in this type of material. Now, there is something else going on in here, and that's going to come into the second part. This is where an analog farm is also going to show up, where they're going to begin starting to create numbers, parallel numbers for the 7 and 3 grid. But it's showing us that time goes on right here. And if we go back to our list, what do we see? All right, we marry, get jobs, and time goes by. Yeah, it may take a while. It goes on for a while. Time passes by. That's what we see there. Yep. We're getting jobs, we're doing things, we're creating, and then, yep, time goes by. Okay, now we've got one final one down here. At long last, we feel trashed. Our mental state and inner turmoil need to be destroyed in some manner. That's for those of us that get here where we say, oh my God, my life is just not okay. What can I do? This is a point where we're not, that's actually the Noah step. But right here, we are hitting that point. We haven't turned inward yet, but our life is just as bad as it gets. You usually have to hit rock bottom before you make a big turnaround. Something big has to happen. And here's where it's happening. What happens if we go look at what's in Genesis here? All right, very short chapter, the wickedness of humans. When people begin to multiply in the face of the ground and daughters were born to them. This represents us, and the daughters that are born to us represents the qualities that are going to collect something as a part of it. The sons of God saw that they were there, and they took wives for themselves of all that they chose. So we're being taken over. Our inner qualities are being taken over by something bigger. God, in this case, God, sons of God aren't good guys, are they? Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in mortals forever, for they are flesh, for their day shall be 120 years. That's an important number. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. Okay, Nephilim represent giants. They represent creatures. Everybody's got bad things inside of them. These are what act out. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. They're still on the earth today. Just watch people in politics. Nephilim, people are acting out all over the place. Those are the Nephilim. That's what they're unresolved issues that they're angry about. When we're ready to turn inward, that's it. Our inner selves, our inner qualities, our peace, our love, our understanding, all of that have been corrupted. And you see that. And when you watch people, you go, yep, it's completely gone. The trashed minds. And the sons of God went into the daughters of humans who bore children to them. Now, these were the heroes that were old, warriors of renown. I don't know that they're going to be heroes, honestly. I think that's an analogous term that means that they were the ones that were, they were the ones in charge. They were the heroes of old, warriors of renown. You know what it would do is it would replicate Babylonian works, the creation myth from the Enuma Elish, where it talks about originally what there were gods. Gods were created that had to be destroyed, then man was created. Gods represent the early qualities of yourself, and the reason they were called gods is because they're so powerful. When they act out, they're in charge, they're in control. What we have here is the representation of the same thing. It's another analogous term that's holding that idea that something has been created that, from a higher source that is now in charge. It's not a good thing. The gods weren't a good thing, and neither is it here. But you see how it's being held. You still have to interpret it and be careful about interpreting the analogous verbiage. Wouldn't call them heroes today. The Lord saw that the wickedness of humans, that's why it was great in the earth, and that every inclination of their thoughts of the heart was only evil continually. This is when we are in a mental turmoil, in a frazzled state. And the Lord God was sorry he has made humans on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. This is the higher awareness looking and saying, I am sorry that I have created these decisions. All of the humans on the earth represent the decisions that I have made, and they have their own feelings. And so the Lord said, I will blot out from the earth all humans I have created. What we want to do is purge our world. People together with animals and the creeping things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the sight of the Lord. That actually should be somewhere else. Anyway, okay, let's go back to our list. Remember what we had right here now. At long last in life, we feel trashed. Our mental state and inner turmoil need to be destroyed in some manner. It hurts our very existence. We are acting out, blind to the fact that our inner unresolved pile of issues are causing us to hurt others and ourselves, actually. That's what we're living through. We are selfish, living tightly within our general emotional state. It's hard to look outward. It's hard to look inward. We have lost our childhood innocence and sense of wonder. We no longer have trust and struggle to find joy. From right here, this is where most people get to and just stay right there if they're hurt. You can see that in the world. Those are worlds that are not going to be destroyed, that have gone bad, that are corrupt. And people, many of those people carry the very material that tells them what to do to resolve that. So you see how this is a very magical thing, how it works. What I'm going to do is stop right there because of the length of the video. It is deep. It takes a lot of setup, and I don't know how to distill it any more than that. It takes time. It's just not a simple process. There's a lot of mental things that happen, and then even if you can watch somebody and go, okay, I kind of think I see that, you still have to do it on your own before it makes sense. But you have to continually understand that we are incredibly modern day biased. We can't get into this. And when we're reading it linearly and don't have it memorized, we don't see certain things in there. We can still see what there is in this part right here that I just covered. On the next video, I'm going to start where Noah is and go through the monomyth. We're going to go through Noah, then we're going to go through the Tower of Babel, then we're going to go through Abram, Sarai. We'll see how long it gets, but we'll go through that and show how we are that along the way. We're sequencing in a healing pattern when that one starts. This one right here ends the normal life cycle pattern. There's a couple of bailouts. In the Garden of Eden, we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What if you had eaten from the tree of life? Never would have left it. You could have been trained different. Cain and Abel, that switch didn't have to happen. You might not have been the person that went bad. You might have been the person that went good. Says, I don't need that material. I'm fine. And I love everybody and life is good. You're not looking for that. You're not the common ones that are not okay. We know that life hurts, life contains a lot of hurt and suffering. And the outer shell material, the religion itself, I'm going to say, I know people Christians that will say, they just don't even interpret this stuff and think it just happened that way. Go talk to Jewish people and they will say, this is not literal. It's metaphorical. You're supposed to understand it. People coming along later downstream and saying you don't do that, it's literal. You're wrong. You're downstream. You're not even accessing the material. It is metaphorical. It is not literal. When you read it literally, you're not going to see what is there. You won't get the grandeur of what is in the Bible, and we don't see it because we don't have it memorized. And when people say don't look for it, you're never going to find it. All right. You know what? I hope this video didn't get too long. There is a lot to this, and I will continue on the next one. It does take a bit to unwrap. I know it's deep, but there's something there. When I get into the numbering grid, that should blow people's socks off. There's so many, it's not just numbers, it's names. There's so much repetitive in here that is even names that are these oddball names. How come? Look, that one said 4 times, that one said 2 times, that one said 2 times. Down here, 422, 422, 422. Something's going on. We don't know it because we don't have them memorized. When you see it, you're going to be like, oh my freaking God. Are you serious? Yeah. But you have to do what I'm doing in order to see it. Okay, hope the video was fun and interesting. Again, yeah. Comments, questions, I would really appreciate it. See you in the next video.